Welcome to high school gymnasium honoring our 1985-86 state tournament boys and girls. I can tell right off that it isn't Friday morning before a big game because Brad Harris is here. First of all, I'd like to thank the school for letting me out for 3 days, at least I think so, to work the state tournament as a scorekeeper up there. It was really quite an honor, but I found that it was one of the worst and one of the best tournaments I'd ever worked in. One of the worst because when we played Wapsie Valley Tuesday night, it was the worst game I'd ever worked. How many of you sat up at the state tournament and never clapped, never cheered, never stomped your feet? Anybody? How many of you think you could? I did for 3 games. 1 game against an undefeated team that was rated 2nd in the state, and we won. The next game against, yay, let's hear it. Our next game, we played again against a team that was undefeated, rated number 1. We come out on the short end of that, but it was a great game, right? I sat there very quietly and calmly for the 3rd game that went into a double overtime without cheering and kicking and stomping. So it's no wonder a man as young and handsome and as sexy as I am is getting a few gray hairs. What a way to end the winter blahs, with the Grinnell High School boys basketball team going to the state and finishing in the top 4. It is quite an honor. Right now, we were supposed to have had the pep band, but our pep band director is out of town, so the cheerleaders thought they could lead us all in the school fight song. Now, I don't see too many students in the audience right now, so I'm not sure how many of you know the school fight song. Cheerleaders, come out here. They did a great job also. I'm not sure how many of the basketball players know the school song either.
We might add that the cheerleaders are all dressed up, not in their usual uniforms.
G-I-C-T-O-R-Y, Grinnell Tigers 5. Good enough, thank you. Yesterday at noon, when the young men lost that heartbreaker, it was obvious to everybody in the stands at the Veterans Auditorium, including all of us who wore green jackets that represented the Iowa High School Athletic Association, that Grinnell was the better team. Unfortunately, we came out on the short end of the score, but as an observer of 21 games up there, I have to say that probably the 2 best games I witnessed were the 2A consolation finals that we played in, and of course the 2A championship game. I have witnessed a lot of basketball, A, 1A, 2A, and 3A. I think 2A plays the best brand of good old country Iowa basketball, and I think the Grinnell High School boys is the best of the lot. There were quite a few teams that got there on the 3-point play. Burlington did, but they couldn't do it when it come down to putting the run-and-gun type of basketball to good old hard-nosed basketball, and they lost the championship in 3A. Delhi couldn't do it in 2A against Washington. They were runner and gunner in a three-point play. They lost out because they didn't play a good old-fashioned brand of basketball. Unfortunately, one team won on three-point play, and that was Denison, who won over us. But however, I do believe that two things happened. First of all, the young man for Denison who took that three-point play shot from about the center line, and it went right through, which was really fate. And secondly, I really thought that one play we got sort of a raw deal on was when one official blew the whistle first and called it for traveling, which would have been our ball, and the other official blew the whistle second and overruled him and said, no, it was a foul. And that was really too bad. However, it was a good game. Our young men have nothing to be ashamed of, and I'm afraid that probably 10 years from now, they'll do nothing but cheer about finishing fourth in the state in 1986, and so will I. Congratulations. I'd like this time to introduce Bill Vosberg, who's going to speak on behalf of the Grinnell Chamber of Commerce. Bill?
I'd like to congratulate you for the entire Chamber of Commerce. We're proud of you boys. We especially like the fact that anything that can bring the community together in a rally is good for Grinnell. And for the past 2 weeks, you've had Grinnell rallying around a very strong team, and we're very appreciative of the efforts you've made. You went into the land of the giants, to paraphrase something Frosty Mitchell likes to talk about. You didn't have the record of a giant. You didn't have the size of the giants. But you went in there with the heart of the giants and the will and the desire, and you came out doing yourself proud. Heartiest congratulations to the entire team, Coach Kriegel, and to the parents and families of these fine players. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill. You realize, of course, that what we're doing here today is taking place in only 3 other 2A schools in the state. So fourth place isn't too bad after all, is it? I remember our last regular season game. I was sitting there watching us play Pella, and we played pretty well the first quarter, but after that we sort of tapered off a little bit, and the Pella fans were sitting around us. Peg and I were sitting there together, and I reached back or leaned around and told the guy behind us from Pella, I said, I know you guys are beating us tonight, but I said, we're going to go further in the state than you are. And he sort of looked at me and smiled, and I said, you'll see, and they did. It's a super example of what you can really do, that you never give up, that you keep on trying all the time. Even our Wapsie Valley game that we played was an example of this. We got down so far, and they just kept fighting, and old Miller put that basket in. That's about the only one I remember that put us ahead 1 point. You don't stop. And, of course, Denison's even an example of this. They got far behind us, and we were a better team. There's no denying it. And yet they didn't give up. So if you set your mind on something and you really work hard at it, you can accomplish it. And I think these guys will carry this example with them for the rest of their life. I guess the cheerleaders are going to lead us in a cheer now, right? I would be careful, don't do any cartwheels or anything in high heels. We already got one girl injured this morning with a high heel over there, right? Girls, it's all yours.
And back out come the cheerleaders. Beautifully dressed in all their best dresses. Cheerleaders leading them into another cheer. They'll sit down, and back comes Jack Marcum.
Speaking of cheerleaders, last night our young men were sitting on the south side all dressed up looking very dapper, and the Washington cheerleaders realized that I was from Grinnell, so they came over and asked me, said, "Who are those good-looking guys from Grinnell?" So I stood there and pointed them out, and Kevin Dixon and some of the guys were sitting there and said, "Especially, you know, who's that one in the red tie?" And I looked over and I couldn't believe it. They were speaking about Bodensteiner. And they looked over and they saw that I was pointing to them. I thought they might have been a little bit embarrassed, you know. And then the next game was the 3A game, and the Burlington cheerleaders were right behind me. And 3 of the Burlington cheerleaders came up and asked, say, "Who are those smooth Grinnell basketball players over there?" You know, I said, "Would you introduce us?" And I said, "No, I don't think I will." However, the 3 girl cheerleaders didn't think they were very hot. I don't know how many of you saw this morning's paper, but we had a lot of tournament leaders in there, you know. In scoring, Maquoketa Valley had 2, Washington had 3, the champions, Denison had 2, and Grinnell, 4th, had 3, the same amount of scores in the top 10 as the champions. And that's excellent, I think, don't you? And we also had 2 young men finish in the top 10 in rebounding. So I think Grinnell made a good showing last night. Yesterday at noon, I guess. My days are all mixed up. I think I'm going back there Monday with some kind of scraper, scrape that skin off of the veterans' floor, because my bottom's been dragging up there for 3 days. At this time, I'd like to introduce another important part of the Grinnell community, especially when it comes to sports. At this time, Jerry Roberts for KGRN. Jerry?
Thank you. It's good to be here and see so many folks who learned on the spur of the moment that we're going to get out and support the young men one more time. In that, I would like to say I salute you, the parents and the fans, and all of the high school members and faculty and cheerleaders for your fine appearance at the state tournament. As a member of Press Row for nigh on to 2 weeks now, we get to see a lot of basketball teams, a lot of fans and cheerleaders come in. And I'll be quite frank with you, earlier in the season, I wasn't too proud of some of the moments along the way. But I think as the season neared an end, and we realized that these young men were for real, there was a magic glue that pulled us all together. And I'm very proud of the way that the Grinnell fans and the players and the coaches and the cheerleaders and the pep band represented the school system down at Des Moines. After that first night, folks were talking about the Grinnell fans and that they were really in the thick of things for the race for the sportsmanship trophy. Now, I'll have to say that maybe running out onto the field or onto the floor at the end of that game, as excited as we were, it might have been a little mark against us. But I certainly want to say that the enthusiasm shown by the fans was a great plus, and I would like to see that carried forward. Just remember along the way, there is a difference between spirit and enthusiasm and sportsmanship. We've got the first step forward now, and it was just magnificent to see you all there, cheering, even in a losing effort in that second overtime when we knew in the last few seconds that the game was lost and it wasn't possible to catch up 4 points. But the band was still playing, the fans were still cheering, and I would like to see that continue for those of you in the stands. I think we've got one good start on an excellent base of support for the young people here in the community, and I want to see that go forward. We've got it. We got the first step. Now let's continue, and I salute you, the fans. We sat there all week long, and I don't think there was a cheering section second to you in the tournament at all. I think you were right up there with the best of them. So let's keep up the good work, you fans, because I'm very proud of you having to sit there and vote. I voted for you, number one, but I'm a little partial when it comes to the sportsmanship trophy. I heard when I was coming up there, one of the guys back here said, "Thank God he doesn't have a tape recorder with him." I think I've been in the locker room so many times with these young guys. After ball games, we started down at Ankeny when Waukee fell victim to us, and then after Wapsie Valley, we joined in all the great spirit and talked to the kids after that. And then I have to congratulate the players, because after that loss to Washington, and then again after the loss to Denison, these young men were not at a loss for words, and they certainly had great things to say about you fans. When I interviewed them, they put it all in perspective and realized that they had accomplished something that hadn't been done at Grinnell High School. And while they weren't very pleased sometimes, they still had the character, and they were gentlemen enough to step forward and represent their school and speak to me in an interview, and no one did not grant me an interview, and I thank you players for that. That speaks well for you in the face of maybe, I guess, adversity, in the face of losing, to still step forward and say good things about your school and your fans. That brings me to an area that I want to continue on just a bit, and that is for you young players here, you basketball players who went through all of this. I've always talked about the responsibilities at many of the various functions that befall us, and you did it again, guys. You just accepted another responsibility when you came through with your performance in the state tournament. There's a responsibility that goes with representing your school, and it lingers on after the event is over. You are going to be the measuring stick now, along with that team from 1978, because there's going to be 2 trophies in the trophy case. One there for second place, followed a great season, state-rated, number 3 in the state, went on to the championship game. The other trophy, and we all know what that stands for. The other trophy, the ones that you put there, the one right in front of me here, the one that says consolation runner-up, stands, I think, for a whole lot more. It means that young men rose to the occasion. In the face of adversity, they hung together, got tough when it really counted, and came through under duress with a not-so-good record, and proved to a whole lot of folks that good things can happen to good people when they put their mind to it. Now, this is something that I think is going to haunt you fellows for a long time, because when anyone remembers that team from 1985-86, they're going to remember your names, and those names will be beside this trophy and in the memories of a lot of people. And I know there's going to be coach after coach in this school system from now on that will refer to you, the team of 85-86, because they're going to refer to you and bring up your names time after time, long after you're gone, because you're the young men that accomplished the impossible dream. You came through when it was tough, you hung together, and you got us to state. And I salute you. Thank you.
KJON Sports Director Jerry Roberts giving a little speech aimed mostly at the guys. Now here he comes back again, Jack Marcum.
Thank you, Jerry. I don't know which is more dangerous, putting a microphone in Jerry's hand or in mine. On a light side, I guess maybe they will be bringing up these names time after time. I'm not going to mention anybody's name, but somebody that gets 3 chances at 1 free throw. Gee whiz. And I can say this jokingly, because even though we lost, we're still 4th in the state. I think that's super. I really do. And speaking of the sportsmanship trophy, most of the people in green up there, those of us that wore those green coats, thought that the 2A was really, everyone should have had one, and probably that the 3A should not even have had one presented to them. And this is the way we felt. And speaking of fans again, as Jerry did, East, who's right there in Des Moines playing for the consolation, I don't think had nearly as many fans as we did at the second game as we had up there at noon. You people were great. You can't say enough for the support. I'm sure these fellows will tell you if they could. Our next speaker, speaking for the Booster Club, Ken Mergen. Ken?
Thank you, Jack. You know, on Tuesday, I introduced a new word to some of these guys, you gotta wanna. And I guess today we got another word, you went and did it. I think that's great. But on behalf of the Booster Club, I too would like to congratulate Coach Kriegel and the Tigers on their very fine fourth place finish in the state 2A championship. You know, if you think back 3 weeks, I'm sure the people in Carlisle said, let's see, after we beat Grinnell, we play the winner of, well, let's see, Surprise. Then, of course, we beat South Tama in a game that maybe some people said we should have won. I don't know. They beat us once. We went to the sub-state tournament at Ankeny, and I'm sure that the Waukee people said, let's see, after we beat Grinnell, I wonder who we'll be matched up with in the state tournament. Surprise again. And of course, Tuesday, this last week, the Wapsie Valley people said, let's see, after we beat Grinnell, we play the winner of Washington and Iowa Falls. Surprise again. So I think these surprises were only surprises to the people in Carlisle, Waukee, and Wapsie Valley. This Tiger team just did not quit this year. 3 weeks ago, it was Grinnell Hooberg. Now the whole state of Iowa knows that we are the Tigers. On behalf of the Booster Club, I think we need to thank some other people too for their support. KGRN. They've done a terrific job of following the Tigers all year, broadcasting their games, giving us support and promotion. We've asked a lot of KGRN, and they have come through for us. I think we need to thank the Herald Register for putting the game write-ups in the paper each week, and of course we need to thank them for all those action photos that we get too. We need to thank our pep band. Our pep band really did a good job this year, spurring the crowd, getting the crowd into the game, and did a tremendous job at the state tournament, and can be very proud of the job that they did do. Our cheerleaders. You know, many times I think we almost forget about the cheerleaders who work very, very hard through the year, working to develop cheers, to get the crowd to promote and spur us on. And so I think we owe a big thank you to the cheerleaders. They have done a tremendous job. You, the fans, I know that your support meant a lot to the Tigers and their basketball team this year. I think we need to thank the parents for the help in the concession stands and the sacrifices that all of you parents made through the year to have your kid at practice, your son. Not only that, but making sure that he was at the game, maybe waiting in town for a late ride home, whatever it is. You, the parents, need a big thank you too. Students, the Grinnell students were great. Jerry covered part of some things earlier in his talk when he talked a little bit about the students and some of the things, sportsmanship, but our students were great, not only at the pep rallies here, but at the state tournament. They were into the game and did a lot. You've heard the team members in their interviews say that they really liked that crowd support, and our crowd was definitely into the game, and a big part of that was our students. I think also we need to, again, not only congratulate but thank Coach Kriegel and Coach Phillips and Sharp for their efforts, and all of the members of the Tiger team for their hard work all year in carrying the Tiger banner of Grinnell Athletics this past year. Last but certainly not least, let me thank the generosity of all those people in the community who may have helped support the Tigers in any way. I hope I didn't forget anyone, but thanks to you all. It was great.
That was Ken Merkin, the president of the Booster Club in Grinnell. Now here's Jack Marcum again.
Speaking of fans, as you know, up at the Betts Auditorium, you're not allowed banners or anything. And the fact that some of our students wore those T-shirts with letters on set up a new dilemma. They don't know what they're going to do up there now. I must admit, as I was sitting there at the table, though, when they started spelling things out standing up, I got a little apprehensive, but everything came out all right. You know, I'd also like to take just a moment to thank the South Central Conference. I personally think it's a great conference for us to be in. I think it's a strong conference. It's one that we can compete in. And it's really, well, like a family kind of conference. If you look on the wall over there, you'll see banners from the Big Reds. That's Centerville. You'll see letters from the coaches and congratulations to Steve. And some of them came up to us at the table and said, tell them the boys thanks. You know, that they're representing the South Central Conference. I think it's a great conference, and I think you guys were, of course, a great representative of that conference. Our next speaker will be for the cheerleaders, the cheerleader sponsor from Grinnell High School, Sharon Van Dyke. Miss Van Dyke.
Coming in the middle of the program, I don't know what I can say. I think it has all been said. We have done a good thing here in Grinnell, and now we do have that responsibility to continue. And I hope that when I come back next year and observe the cheerleaders, that there still will be that cooperation and that support from the fans for what they do, for what the team is doing, and for what we need to do for the community. I think you're all to be commended and should pat yourselves on the back. I have some awards that I'd like to give to the gals now, and just come out and help them next year, too.
Okay. Back now, going to the cheerleaders and giving them some individual awards out there. So we might make a comment how nice the cheerleaders do look. And must be some pins or something that she's handing out to each one of the cheerleaders. Okay. And she seemed to get it all done, so... Sharon Van Dyke, the sponsor for the cheerleaders today. Now back to Jack.
People ask me why I go up there every year to keep score, even when our team's not going up there. But every year I get this tingle. Did you not, when we played our first game up there, get a feeling, a tingle that you don't get anyplace else? Right? It is. How about you guys? How'd you feel that first day you walked in there and it was empty, you know, and you saw all that empty space there? Was it overwhelming? Of course, you did all right. 2 more games after that first one, right? That's the reason I do it, I guess, because I really enjoy it. However, it is a lot more fun when I get to do my own home team. I'd like to see it happen again next year.